represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state when that light turns red. So don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fith chapter. Huh. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fith. When they open their mouths, they spitting the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the Fith chapter. That's right, and welcome to the Fith chapter. I am Brian Chapman. He is Dennis Fithian. We're ready to go for episode number 100, a special edition on the day of the NFL draft. We'll be taking you to and through the big decision at number 7. And while Dennis, and many times in the past, you've been able to outdo me in terms of the decorations, I got balloons here for episode number 100. I think that's more than what you got. Oh, you got that little tiger.
I got an off shadow light here that's casts a shadow on my background. So how about that?
Yeah, it's spooky, which I think might portend to the Lions scaring their fan base with a stupid SOL pick at number 7, perhaps.
Well, anything can happen with the Lions. We know that. So we'll just sit tight, wait to see what they do. I think that they're going to trade down here, but man, I think they're going to have also a lot of possibilities. And maybe they'll get to the Lions pick by midnight.
Yeah, I know. When we initially decided to push our show back an hour, we were assuming that they'd be about 3 or 4 picks in. We could recap the first few picks, and then certainly by 9 o'clock we'd be around to the Lions pick. But it looks like by 9 o'clock, maybe we'll be at pick number 4 or 5. But definitely want to thank anybody or everybody either way for tuning into episode 100. Thanks to all who are watching via YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch, and to those listening to the podcast. If you're listening to the podcast, you're listening to what has already happened, and it's not happening live. But want to make sure that you subscribe, and participate in this show by sending in your feedback to Dennis, who'll be reading it throughout the show via Facebook Live and via YouTube. Put it down there. Dennis will read it throughout the show, whether it's about the picks that have already been made, Aaron Rodgers, the trades, Tim Tebow, or, of course, the same old Lions.
Chapman, I don't know. Are you not watching this live? Like, the pick just came in. You went right past it. Zach Wilson. It's done. The 49ers are on the clock.
I'm not watching it live. I'm focusing on the show, but I've got you and I've got Jelinek to tell me about what's going on. And we will have our intern, Brian Jelinek, popping in every once in a while to tell us about any trades that are made and any draft picks that are made. So we'll get to the first 2 picks in just a second. But here is what we'll be talking about during today's show and today's book. Obviously, you can see draft. Second chapter, we're going to be predicting the next few picks through 6. In the third chapter, lots of NFL news not regarding the draft, including Aaron Rodgers and Tim Tebow making a return potentially. In the fourth chapter, of course, live coverage of the same old Lions big decision. And you see there I put decision, not draft pick, because they could decide to deal the pick elsewhere. And then in the 5th chapter, the major wager. But, Dennis, we'll start off with the first chapter, the first few picks. You just mentioned a pick was made. What are the first 2 picks that are in so far?
Well, what everybody expected. Trevor Lawrence, they took, an hour to get to it, but Jacksonville picked him, and then the Jets went up there, and they did take Zach Wilson. So it's gone. Zach Wilson holding up that green Jets jersey right now. The Jets fans up there give him a little dap. They bring a fan and put him up in a lazy boy up on the set. I like that. I think they like that homespun feel that last year with Roger Goodell's basement. So he's still up there, Zach Wilson, and it's such an overcast night in Cleveland, like
a typical Cleveland night.
It is. It's almost like there's a cloud hanging over the whole thing there for the Browns. I mean, if you were a Lions fan, you'd say there's a dark cloud hanging over the franchise. I'm sure they're saying that about Cleveland there. But, yeah, so it's gone exactly what we thought. But now here are the 49ers, and, we are led to believe that they're either going Mac Jones from Alabama, or they are going to go with Trey Lance from North Dakota State. So that's where we're waiting. We got 5 minutes to figure out what they're going to do. And you know what? I think they had the intention of going up and getting Mac Jones, and then they just kept looking into Trey Lance, trying to trade for Aaron Rodgers maybe here. But I think ultimately they are going to pick Mac Jones here. What do you think about the Aaron Rodgers news? I'm looking over the shoulder of Zach Wilson here, and there's a cheesehead right down on the front row, and he's got a number 12 on of Aaron Rodgers, who wants out of Green Bay. What do you make of it?
Well, and you mentioned the Aaron Rodgers jersey. I also saw somebody with a Matthew Stafford number 9 jersey at the NFL draft as well. Of course, that number 9 jersey being a Detroit Lions jersey, not a Rams jersey. But that was, I mean, talk about taking over the NFL draft and making, I don't want to say that the NFL draft is just like a side item now, but a monster news. The reigning NFL MVP wants out. Obviously he could legitimately want out, and I think that that's likely the case because he saw what they did last year when he wanted them to go all in on the 2020 season to try to get a Super Bowl, and considering the roster that they had the previous year, considering how they got the number 1 seed once again this past year, it probably would have been a better decision for the 2020 season for them to go get a different kind of offensive weapon as opposed to a potential replacement, as opposed to a potential capable backup. And I think that Aaron Rodgers might have seen the writing on the wall as of last year and said, you know what, I'll give it one more run, and then I've got to get out of here because I'm not going to be run out of town. I'm not going to be replaced by this Jordan Love guy. I want to go out on my own terms. So I think that's a possibility. The other thing that he could be doing here is trying to push the Packers' hand. Say, look, I just won the MVP. I know that you got this replacement guy, but if you really want to keep me here, then you're going to have to make a move with that first pick. That's not like some offensive lineman or some linebacker or a replacement quarterback or a kicker. You're gonna have to get me some legitimate help at wide receiver. Maybe you trade up, maybe you stand pat and you take a big time receiver, and perhaps maybe he wants them to trade Jordan Love to a team that needs a quarterback. I don't know how likely that is, but when you're the reigning NFL MVP, when you just had home field advantage in the NFC Championship game, and now you say you want out, you've got some leverage. So I think that there's a significant possibility that he wants to stay and is using the leverage, but I wouldn't be surprised if he actually wants out so that he can go to a team that isn't trying to get his replacement. He saw what happened with Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. They brought him in his first year he won the Super Bowl. I have to imagine that Rodgers thinks that he could go to another franchise, a franchise that wasn't even all that great, not a bottom feeder like the Lions, but take them immediately to a Super Bowl championship.
Yeah, if you're watching, wherever you're watching at, you want to comment during the show or read it or see that Jim Lyons on Facebook giving us a congratulations on episode 100. Yeah, thanks so much there, Jim. Thanks for jumping in on that. Brian Jelinek, what are the odds here? They keep showing Mac Jones, and we're under 2 minutes until the pick is going to be announced here. It feels like Mac Jones. They just showed Justin Fields' house. They're all just sitting there like they're waiting for a church service to start. It didn't look like a very happy Fields household. What are we thinking here? What are the odds?
I got Mac Jones at minus 200 being drafted 3rd overall by the 49ers, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. I don't actually bet cash, but if I did, I would put it in on it. But the pick is in for the 49ers. Now we just got to sit and wait, boys.
Let's see. Keith is saying Fields or Lance should go number 3. I'm guessing it will be Lance, but hoping Fields.
It should be Fields.
But I think it'll be Mac Jones was the favorite. I thought it was going to be Fields, and then a day or two after that, Michael Lombardi came in on the GM shuffled and guaranteed 100% that it was not going to be Fields, and then his odds dropped, and then that's when Mac Jones' odds went way up, and that's where we're sitting right now. And the pick is in, so we're just going to wait for the commissioner here, and I don't know if they're going to talk about, they're going to send it to Green Bay along with 2 future number 1s and Bosa for Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see how they end up playing this. We know it's going to be a quarterback. That's the one thing that we know for sure.
I'll say. Go ahead, Chap.
I was just going to say one good thing about getting your NFL draft coverage from the Fith chapter as opposed to ESPN. I was very disappointed to see that Mike Greenberg was hosting the NFL draft. I don't know what happened to Trey Wingo. They've got a bunch of other capable NFL analysts. They've got that
Trey Wingo doesn't work there anymore. He went to the NFL Network. I saw him today.
Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't work there anymore.
But they've got other analysts. Mike Greenberg,
I like Greenberg too.
He's all right, but
here's the commissioner.
They can do better.
Here's the commissioner.
With the third pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Trey Lance.
Woo! Trey Lance, if you didn't hear that, I don't know, is it coming over the speaker?
Yeah, I could hear Trey Lance goes number 3 to the San Francisco 49ers. What did you think about that decision?
It's amazing. You know what? I don't think that we'll find out, but I think that they had the intention of taking Mac Jones, and then they just started doing their work on Trey Lance. And over the last 2 weeks, every time you hear anybody come on and start talking about Trey Lance, everybody loves him. They love everything that he does. They love his arm. They love who was it that I was listening to that they talked about him going up. You know, they don't have the Gruden quarterback camp anymore, but they'd go up to the whiteboard and they just called him.
Was it Herb Street?
It was Peter Schrager actually. Peter Schrager said, "Man, this guy's a maven. You take him up to the whiteboard, he'll talk you through it. He's 21 years old. He's perfect. He's just everything. He's perfect on the field and everything that he did and how he handles himself." Everything except he didn't play against big-time competition. So that's the one drawback there. But like has been pointed out, whether it's been Aaron McNair or Carson Wentz, the majority of guys that the NFL teams have gone down to outside the Group of Five or even Power Five, of course, most of those guys have been successful.
Yeah, they have been. And actually one guy who was a Division II quarterback who was successful for a little bit after being a backup to Tom Brady and now is being replaced by a non-Group of Five quarterback is Jimmy Garoppolo. This is a guy who led his team to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. But I am surprised to see Trey Lance go number 3 overall. I think that given that he's coming from this small school, given that he only played one game last year, it ensures that he will not be taking over right away and Jimmy Garoppolo will be the starter. And they're not going to be trying to trade away Garoppolo. But I thought that this was going to be Mac Jones. All the talk heading into the draft was that he was rising up because he was the quickest at making decisions in the draft, quicker and made better decisions than Wilson, better decisions than Fields, better decisions than Lance, better decisions than Trevor Lawrence. And he was the guy that a lot of folks are saying, if you need to win a game right now, he's the quarterback that you would take. I think that perhaps what you're seeing here is the San Francisco 49ers saying that they want athleticism at the quarterback position. Mac Jones might be able to make more of the passes, more of the throws, but they want that athleticism here. And the last time they had a very athletic quarterback who was not coming from a big school, was a little bit bigger than North Dakota State, they drafted the anthem kneeler Colin Kaepernick, and what did he do? He took them to a Super Bowl. So it could work out for them. This is a guy who I think has a lower floor and a higher ceiling than Mac Jones, but that's their pick. And now I think that the big question is going to be, with those 3 quarterbacks gone, which quarterback between Fields and Jones is going to have a potential Aaron Rodgers-like fall. Perhaps it's neither. Perhaps they both go in the top 10. But now the big question is who's going fourth.
Yeah, and I think if you're a Lions fan, you wanted to see Mac Jones go there because you thought that the 49ers loved him. There were a lot of teams that were intrigued with Lance, and he could have moved up to 7, so that lessens the value a little bit for the Lions there at 7. I mean, maybe a team will still want to go up there and get Fields and or Mac Jones, but you knew that there were a lot of teams that seemed like they fell in love with Lance. But one thing that we knew is it all going to just go perfectly all the time for the Lions here. It doesn't mean that it's an L or anything. It just means that there might not be that bargaining, and it might not be that rush to get that number 7 pick because, like you indicated, like if Fields gets taken, there might not be a team that wants to go up and get Mac Jones.
Well, I think this does portend better for the Detroit Lions because It didn't seem like there were a lot of mock drafts that had Lance going out of the top 10. And it seemed like while a lot of mock drafts had Mac Jones at number 3, there were a lot of teams that liked Jones. And when you think about a potential fit for Jones, a quarterback that makes good decisions and likes to stay in the pocket, I would think the New England Patriots would be that kind of team because they had Tom Brady for all those years, who was a pocket passer and made very good decisions. Could the Patriots, even without Bob Quinn, be a potential team to trade with the Lions and move up 8 spots? We know that if Bob Quinn was still the GM, they'd be on the phone all day and night and texting each other and everything else, leaving DMs in Bill Belichick's Instagram, or Instaface as he likes to call it. But I think that if the Lions are looking for a team that wants to trade up to 7, while there's been a whole lot of talk about Justin Fields potentially going to the Patriots, maybe it's Mac Jones now that he's still on the board, if he's still on the board at number 7.
Maybe. Let's look at some of the instant feedback as we go here. Live chat on YouTube. We do have Keith here. He put a bet down for he put $5 on Fields going number 3. It was plus 1,900, so that didn't come out. I did have Mac Jones going there. He says, funny how the Aaron Rodgers being unhappy news came out day 1 of the draft. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting that it came out today. I did see, it was Peter Schrager who said that he talked to a GM today. He said, if there was going to be a blockbuster, this is a good day to do it. Well, coming up, now you've got your pick, you've got your plan. If you get a chance to get Aaron Rodgers, today was.
What if the Packers want Trey Lance? And what if they said, hey, we'll be willing to deal Aaron Rodgers if we get Trey Lance? Maybe we weren't all that enamored with Jordan Love as the backup all year, but with Rodgers wanting out, with you wanting to improve upon Jimmy Garoppolo, you get us Lance, and then we can put the framework for a deal together.
It's a great point, chap. Now, but the one thing I think, if you are the Packers and you do get your hand forced, I don't think you're sending them to San Francisco. I think that you're sending them to the AFC. You are, you're looking to send them to a team like that's why the Broncos. The Broncos were saying that they had a deal in place. I mean, Mark Schlereth. This wasn't, this is Mark Schlereth. I mean, this guy's been around the block a few times here, pretty much saying that the deal was done right before the draft started there, and they picked number 9. But yeah, I mean, it could happen if they really did love Trey Lance when it came down to it. We do have the commissioner walking up. The Atlanta Falcons, they are on the clock, and they are indicating that the pick is in. Goodell.
You think it's Pitts?
Yes, that would be my pick. Pitts, what do you think?
I think it probably will be Pitts.
The Atlanta Falcons select Kyle Pitts, tight end, Florida.
There it is.
Yeah,
Pitts with a sweet Green Bay suit on, so maybe he's getting dealt for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, this wasn't a surprise given the meteoric rise of Pitts following the NFL Combine. Everybody's saying this is some great, one of the greatest weapons you'll ever see. Is he a wide receiver? Is he a tight end? Yes and yes. Being able to run like a deer and all that stuff, and putting up some pretty big numbers at Florida. It was nice. It was easy to see him rise up. I thought it was a smart decision by the Falcons to not draft a quarterback. If you went back a couple of months ago, there were a lot of mock drafts saying that the Falcons were going to select Justin Fields, who's from Georgia, if he fell to them at number 4.
From Atlanta.
There you go, from Atlanta. Probably grew up a huge Atlanta Falcons fan, and I thought it was crazy to think about drafting a quarterback at number 4 when Matt Ryan was still playing at such a high level. So I thought it was a good decision to not do that. They have some weapons with Julio Jones, who might get dealt, and Calvin Ridley. So best case scenario, I would have thought would have been to draft a defensive player. But given that most of the defensive players, we might not have a defensive player drafted in the top 10. Certainly a better chance of that not happening in the top 9. So maybe they didn't want to reach. I thought that given their defensive woes last year, that would have been the best case scenario. But now I guess the line of logic is, hey, we've got Ridley, we've got Julio Jones for the moment, we've got Kyle Pitts, we've got Matt Ryan throwing the ball to all these guys. Try and stop us.
Yeah, well, the one thing, like the argument for taking a quarterback is that you don't know if you're going to be up this high again, and if you really like somebody and you think you can be an elite quarterback, and you're ready to move on from your quarterback after a year, that's when you do it. But like you indicate, 36 years old for Matt Ryan. The one thing you do is you look at Green Bay and the animosity that it created there. Like Aaron Rodgers wanted to play for a couple more years, and they're drafting a quarterback when they needed a wide receiver. I don't know how much they looked into that and say, hey, we want to go ahead and take Justin Fields, and then Matt Ryan suddenly's like, get me out of here too.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, they got all that money tied up to Ryan, who's playing at a pretty high level right now. Have him disgruntled, and then there's only so many quarterback moves that can be made in an off season. The Lions and the Rams made the first big move. You got these teams. You got three teams at the top of the draft that are acquiring quarterbacks, including the 49ers, who traded up in order to get a quarterback. We're still awaiting to see what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson down with the Houston Texans. Now we got the Aaron Rodgers news. Like, everybody can't go around swapping and drafting quarterbacks high and having a complete, 20 new starting quarterbacks next year. Some teams have to be stable. So at some point, the market's going to say, well, I almost forgot, Teddy Bridgewater got traded, just yesterday to go to the Denver Broncos. So some of these teams have to just stick with what they have.
Yeah, so it's Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, 1-2. We're going Jags, and then to the Jets like we expected. Trey Lance going 3 to the 49ers, and the Falcons just picked Kyle Pitts. Cincinnati is on the clock. They are at number 5, 4 minutes and counting here. Let's go to Jelinek. We've got some odds here. It seems like a coin flip. It seems like it's going to be Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell. It's going to be the selection here, depending on if you want the big tackle or if you want that outstanding weapon who hooked up with his quarterback Burrow back when they were at LSU. So what are the odds here? It seems like a 50-50 deal here.
I think they got to go with an offensive lineman. I mean, Joe Burrow just got murdered every time, basically every play last year. So, I mean, Burrow's good enough where he can make plays on his own. I think they'll definitely go with the offensive lineman and Penei Sewell for the 5th overall pick.
Now, T. Higgins was pretty good last year. Tyler Boyd's not too shabby either. I think it's a smart move with going with Sewell, but I think the thing with Chase, he was so good. Which way are you leaning here, Chapman?
I think this is a tough decision between those two, just because on one side you got the chemistry that they had at LSU, and they were just setting all these records along with Justin Jefferson and Terrace Marshall. But on the other hand, I have to imagine that front office has nightmares of Joe Burrow getting hurt behind that weak offensive line. This is supposedly a deep draft for offensive linemen if you look at the 2nd and 3rd round and wide receivers, so I don't think you can go wrong either way. Therefore, I would go with the chemistry connection. I would go with Jamar Chase. Give Joe Burrow the big-time playmaker.
And I think from a Lions standpoint, you want it to be Jamar Chase. Lions, if they do get stuck at 7, the fan base definitely wants Penei Sewell. It seems like the fan base is soured. Even though the Lions don't have any wide receivers, it sees like they're going to be down on, taking a wide out. And maybe not Chase, but it seems like if the Bengals go with Sewell, that the Dolphins will run that card up there and then take Jamar Chase.
I think that's what the Dolphins should do. They should take whichever one of these guys is left. And if you're a Lions fan, I'll say this: if I was still a Lions fan, I would rather have Jamar Chase, because they don't have any wide receivers. And like we've been talking about for the last few weeks, the strongest part of this Detroit Lions football team is the offensive line. Yeah, they've got some questions at right tackle, but get yourself a starting right tackle in the 3rd round. You can get one in the 4th round. You can get one off the free agent heap. But Jamar Chase, the guy who was arguably the best wide receiver in college football in 2019, and now it's a year later, you need that. I mean, their number one wide receiver right now. What is it? Quintez Cephas? Is it Tyrell Williams? Is it Brett Perriman Jr. or whoever it is? I mean, they've got nothing at wideout. I get that as I was just saying, it's a deep draft for wide receivers. Jr. Well, yeah, I know. Perriman. Yeah, exactly. Oh, okay. But I get that. I was just talking about how deep the draft is going to be in wide receivers. But if the best one is still there at number 7. Then yeah, bring him in. And that's going to help out Jared Goff if he's going to be the answer. You'll be able to see, can he hook up with this guy? And if he's not, and you have to draft a quarterback next year, then that rookie quarterback is going to have an experienced potential star ready to throw to.
All right, well, the Cincinnati Bengals, the pick is in. So we are waiting for the commissioner as he takes a stroll up. Jelinek wanting to make a point.
In the fifth chapter mock draft contest, it's split 3-3 with Penei Sewell and Jamar Chase. So nobody really knows where it's going.
I think it's Chase.
Okay.
Yeah, I do too. All
right, I'll take Penei Sewell. I'll take it.
There you go. And I think for the Lions, I think the Lion fans and most people want Sewell. If they end up getting stuck and having to stay at 7, so. You have a lot more options there when you're talking about the wide receivers. Not so many that you're talking about with Sewell. But let's see. Mel Kiper's going crazy here. He has an opinion on which way they should go. It feels like if you're being safe and prudent, which is not a word that you like to use in the NFL or in sports, that you should go offensive lineman, but a little bit more of a gamble, a little more ceiling, certainly more sizzle if you're going with Chase. Here comes the commissioner. He's making
they're both safe
long
picks.
Stroll. Yeah, hey, you can't lose then, can you? Here, the Cincinnati fan is dressed up like a like a cowboy with a gigantic hat on, and here is the commissioner.
With the 5th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Jamar Chase, wide receiver, LSU.
Just like we thought.
Tell you what, he looks good in his sweet suit. the cream or off-white suit. Got the shades on at night. He looks like a primetime wideout, tell you that much.
Yeah, and now he's going to be with his primetime quarterback. His, I would assume they're friends, but his old friend from LSU, Jamar, what's his name?
Burrow.
Joe Burrow. So I like this combination, and now they can focus in the second and perhaps third rounds on getting some folks to protect Joe Burrow so that he has time to find Higgins and time to find Jamar Chase. I like this pick for the Bengals.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned it, like there's 3 coveted wide receivers besides Chase. There's the 2 wideouts from Alabama. But when you're talking about tackles here, after Sewell, there's a couple here in the first round. You got Slater from the Northwestern Wildcats, and then you got a couple other tackles that are looked at. Kid out at USC, flexible, and is it Virginia Tech is the other one? Parashaw. We have to look at that one. I think he's from Tech. I'll look at it. And then it's kind of a deep in the tackles. Notre Dame's got one that's projected in the second round. So I think you can go that way. If you're the Bengals looking for that tackle help.
Yeah, there's also USC's got a guard, Elijah Vera Tucker, who's projected to be a middle of the first round pick.
Correct.
But I think that that things are setting up pretty well for the Lions, as we all thought that that it would if the Lions stand pat, because there's a number of players that I think would fit. And I'm predicting that the Lions will execute the first trade of the day, and they will move down from number 7. I don't know who that's going to be. I did hear one of the ESPN reporters state that the floor for Justin Fields was number 8 with the Carolina Panthers. So perhaps there'll be a team that wants to trade up to number 7 to get in front of the Panthers to draft Justin Fields. But whether it's for Fields, a wide receiver, whether it's for Sewell, I have a feeling that the Lions are going to be trading back.
Yeah, I do too. And
and of course, Mac Jones.
Yeah, well, the Vegas number on Fields was 7.5. So, the Dolphins. I did bet it, so I'm thinking that it's going to happen. And, that's usually when you're trading up inside the top 10, I know the Saints are talking about trying to get up there to get a corner, and that's fine. But, normally you're a team here, you're moving up to get a QB here. The Dolphins are already making their pick. I think they're going to go Waddle over Davonte Smith, but we'll see how that shakes out there. Tua.
I think so, too.
Getting a
former teammate.
Input he has. Yeah, either one. Which one he likes more. I don't know about if he has the input on that, but.
Which one's a jerk? Which one should we stay away from?
Well, it doesn't seem like either one's a jerk. The one thing about Saban, he has been effusive in the praise of Waddle. I saw he compare his competitiveness to Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. There's something today. I think he was talking about a guy getting in and out of his breaks. He's like the best that he's ever had at Alabama. So you think about some of the wideouts that from Ridley to Julio Jones that he has had there, from Ruggs, right down the line. That's a pretty high praise that he has for Waddle. So I think this is the spot for Jalen Waddle here for the Dolphins. Too. But, it could be Davonte Smith. And then the Lions are going to be on the clock. Jelenik, what are you thinking here?
God, my mock is just so bad. So I have no idea. They got to go with the kid from Alabama, not Davonte Smith. So that's what the Dolphins have to do, right? Right?
Yeah, I think so.
They can't do anything else.
Yeah, I hope that.
They can. They could take Sewell. They could take an offensive lineman. I think that it makes a lot of sense to try to ensure that you protect your first-round quarterback from the previous year.
That's why I have them taking Sewell as well. So we'll find out.
Well, I have them taking Waddle. I'm just saying that it would make sense. It wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world if they decided to go with Sewell, especially with the amount of praise that he's getting.
They have Tunsil over there at the left tackle, but yeah, they can throw him. You're always good, drafting a tackle, especially one that's looked at as a 10-year starter.
While we're waiting for the pick, one prop that I kept seeing was over under 4.5 cornerbacks taken in the first round. What do you guys think?
I'm going the under on that one.
Let's see. You got Farley, you got Horn, you got Surtain.
I think Farley's the one because of the injury concerns, the one that is pushing me to go the under, and I think that he's going to get pushed back to the second round. That's my thought on that one. Mm-hmm. That's my reasoning behind it.
You got Greg Newsome from Northwestern. Mel Kiper Jr. on his board has him as the 24th overall player. So that's 4 guys that could be in the mix. I'm looking a little bit further on in the draft, and he's got Asante Samuel Jr. as the 29th overall player on his big board. Tyson Campbell of Georgia at 36, and I've seen him go in the first round. So that's probably a bet that I wouldn't touch. I think that could go either way. 4.5, I think, is probably a pretty good number.
Well, we've talked an awful lot about the scenario here. The Dolphins, the pick is in. Then it's going to be the Lions. Are the Lions? Are they even thinking about when their scouts came back with Justin Fields or Mac Jones, thinking about, hey, you know what? We know this is the most important position. We could sit a guy for a year or two. Let's see what the Dolphins do here first. Then the Lions will be on the clock.
In the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Jalen Waddle.
There you go.
Chapman 2 for 2.
We predicted it again. Yeah, I think the only pick that I haven't gotten right today was number 3. I thought that was going to be Mac Jones and it was Trey Lance. But, yeah, Jalen Waddle, he's the bigger of the 2 Alabama receivers. He's got the connection with Tua Tagovailoa. And it gives Tua a weapon.
Yeah, he's got a I don't know. What do you say? A drip? Is that for the whole ensemble? Because his suit's pretty sweet, but what's standing out here is he's got a necklace that's got a diamond encrusted. It looks like maybe his name across. It's a pretty sweet necklace.
Yeah, that's some dripping. Considering that it's cold in Cleveland, it won't be dripping everywhere. The ice will stay frozen.
No, the ice is frozen there. They're showing his highlights, and you can see why they ended up taking him. All right, the Lions are there was a report earlier. Everybody's saying that the Lions are holding the keys here to somebody who wants to come up with the quarterback.
They're going
it has
down.
happened, and you would think that they're going to trade out of this. The pick is already in, so
I think that means they traded down. I think that means they were on the phone with somebody and they said, hey, if this guy is still on the board, then we're going to give you all these picks.
Yeah, so a team that loves Justin Fields. A team that loves Justin Fields is saying, look, here's the compensation, first round, third round. Third round, you're going back. You think it's the Patriots?
I don't know. I think that there's a possibility it's the Patriots. I think that
so too.
I think that it's they're likely, whether it's Fields or Mac Jones. I think that Mac Jones seems more of a Patriot-like quarterback.
Yeah. What it would seem stupid is if the Lions just made the pick already and they're keeping it, like this, so they didn't use their entire time and they just were like, okay, did we love Sewell so much or Davonte Smith that we just made the pick? So. Screw it. We didn't even want to hear any offers. But I'm with you. I think that they were in discussions. Like almost all the teams knew that the Dolphins, of course, weren't going to take a quarterback there. Mm-hmm. So somebody said, look, let's just get this out of the way. Here's our package. Nobody's going to beat us. We're ready. Let's make it happen.
Well, the other thing is the Lions they're picking high at number 7. They knew that there were only 6 guys who would be off the board. And if their number 3 guy on the board was still there, then that would make sense for them to run it up and not field any phone calls and have any further discussions. They've had 4 months to decide what to do with the number 7 pick. So, I mean, taking all this time, 10 minutes, unless you're engaged in draft discussions, it shouldn't take you that much time to say, all right, this guy's the highest on our board. Do we still want to draft him? Let's spend 10 minutes thinking about it.
Well, the other idea is if you've got the compensation and everything, and teams, you do have a little bit of a bidding war, mm-hmm. and you're like, even if somebody is, let's just say it was the Patriots, they were saying a first and a third rounder, let's just do it, or we'll beat any deal, and then the phone rings, and you just tell them, look, we need 2 first rounders for you to move up. The Patriots like, we're going to do it. I don't know, like it just there's a little bit of a surprise there that the pick came in so fast here for the Lions as we wait. Let's see what some of the feedback is saying here. Keith was saying that the Dolphins were going to take Smith, and we got people just now holding their breath and waiting on what's going to happen here. I think that they're trading out. And
mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that it's not the Panthers, it's not the Broncos. I think the Patriots are coming up to get Justin Fields.
Yeah, that'd be number 15. Some other teams that you might think would consider trading up for a quarterback would be potentially the Washington football team, and they're sitting at what are they, 19? No, yeah, they're
mm-hmm.
at 19. You got the Bears at 20. I wonder if I don't think the Minnesota Vikings would move up from 14, but perhaps that's a possibility. What about the Eagles at 12? They say that they're all in on Jalen Hurts, but maybe it's because they didn't think they'd have the chance to get Mac Jones, or they didn't think they'd have the chance to get Justin Fields.
Well, the Saints have been talking all day. There was a lot of Saints talk. Saints are at 28. That they wanted to come all the way up. Now, Saints coming all the way up from the corner, the amount of picks that they'd have to give up sounds a little ridiculous here. I think if the Saints are coming up, they're taking. I think if a team's coming up, they're taking Justin Fields. I don't think the Saints are coming all the way up there from 28 to the 7 to take Patrick Surtain the second. But that's me.
I think if they're going to come up from 28, they're taking a quarterback. So it could be Mac Jones because he's still on the board as well.
Dan Campbell's up, and there's Holmes looking at it. There's
he wiping the kneecaps off of his lips.
I tell you what, I don't see any baseball bats or anything else. They look pretty happy, what? They weren't clapping like everybody else. They just seemed, they got smiles on their faces. It looked like a trade down room, honestly. Like the other teams, they knew the player. Well, look at when they showed all the other draft rooms, everybody was standing up and applauding, like, "Hey, we got Trey Lance." There's
maybe they weren't happy with the haul that Brad Holmes got in return. He's like, "Yeah, we'll move back 20 slots for a 2022 6th-round pick." Yeah.
I think there were just wry smiles here, like, "Hey, we're going back to 15, we're going back to 19, we're going back to 20, we're going back to 28. So it's going to be a long night here for the Lions." So. That's what the room looked like when they showed it to me. So That's the way it is all along. But maybe if they are going to stay there, I think it is going to be Penei Sewell or a move back. But I think it's a move back is the way to go. I think that's what they talked about. They gave Dan Campbell an extra year. They have the worst odds in all of football, along with the Texans there. So they know what's going on here. I think it's a move back. Here comes the commissioner.
To announce the second pick in the draft. With the 7th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Penei Sewell.
No trade.
Here's the moment. Penei Sewell, here's his name called, surrounded by fans.
I was going to say he didn't seem very happy, but he was on a little bit of a delay.
Yeah, so no trade, and the Lions take the boring tackle to protect Jared Goff. This is we've been talking about this for weeks. This is I get that he was highly rated. I get that if there weren't so many great quarterbacks, that a lot of folks say he could be the number 1 overall pick, and that makes it more palatable. But I would not have taken an offensive lineman on a team that has not very many strengths, but the biggest strength that it has, or the closest thing that it has to a strength, is the offensive line. Trading down, maybe there wasn't much interest, and perhaps we'll never know if there wasn't much interest. Perhaps we'll find out later today or in the next couple of days that the Lions turned down this gigantic haul because they just had to have Penei Sewell. And you mentioned that they ran that up there. I guess given how highly rated Penei Sewell was, there's a chance that he was rated 1, 2, or 3 on the Lions board. And if he was there was no way they were going to trade him away. But if I was going to be picking at number 7, like I've been saying for weeks, the best defensive player is still on the board, and that's Micah Parsons. The Lions have not just one of the worst wide receiving cores in the NFL, in which case Davonte Smith would make sense. They have perhaps the worst linebacking core in the NFL, and Micah Parsons is going to be a Pro Bowler in the next 1 or 2 years, and they passed him up. They didn't trade down. They didn't draft a wide receiver. They drafted an offensive lineman. So, all right.
Well, the thing to me is the previous regime, Bob Quinn, this was his idea. His idea was let's draft the best offensive line we possibly can. Now, it ended up not working out for him, as we all know. And the idea of starting up front and getting offensive linemen and you can never have enough good offensive linemen. The Detroit Lions have spent more draft capital than any team ever. The Cowboys, they drafted some guards and it worked out for them, but I mean, you just look, Taylor Decker, he was a first-round pick. Frank Ragnow, he was a first-round pick. Now, they're putting Sewell out to the right side. And if you look back to Bob Quinn, he had those first-round picks, and then he went out and gave T.J. Lang top 6 guard money. He gave Wagner the most money ever, guaranteed money for a right tackle. So that was the previous regime's philosophy. Dump as much as you can into this offensive line and get it right. And when you looked at the rest of the NFC North, what were the Packers? Well, they had the elite quarterback and Aaron Rodgers. The Vikings and the Bears, both of them, when they had a shot there, it was all about defense. The Packers, the Bears, they traded for Khalil Mack. It was all about, that great defense. And I think the Vikings, it was the same thing. That's what they were trying to do. And for the Lions, when they had Stafford, it was like, get a force field around that Stafford. Just keep putting as much as you can. Draft capital and free agent money into that offensive line. It didn't work. Now this regime going the same direction, but hopefully this time around, I don't know, it worked with Ragnow, and you could say Decker was a good pick here too. It's just this is the direction that they're going. And the one thing, just from knowing Lion fans over the year, Lion fans love tackles. They love offensive linemen. This will be a universally praised pick by Lion fans around, and you know what? It's safe.
I don't think it's going to be universally praised. I think it's a safe pick, but I don't think it's going to be universally praised.
You know what? Lion fans didn't want a wide receiver. They certainly didn't want a quarterback. It didn't seem like a defensive player was there to be selected. So you build from the your offensive line, get your lines going here. Protect your quarterback, and move on from there. There's a guy that if he can play right tackle, he can play left tackle. I think it's safe and it's solid. Safe and solid. That's what I would look at. I'd give him a solid B for the selection.
It is a safe pick, and it is a solid pick because he's not a bad player. They didn't reach down to get someone who's projected to be the number 15 player in the draft. They, if anything, you could say they got lucky because you could argue that. I think you could argue, based on how long we've heard about how great Penei Sewell was, that he was maybe the second or third best player in this draft, behind Trevor Lawrence and then behind whether you have Fields or Zach Wilson, number 2. I think that in terms of value, it made sense, but like improving the offensive line by adding a right tackle, like how significant of an improvement is that going to make to this team? I get that we're not talking about, well, can they make the playoffs in 2021? And this is not a move. Drafting a right tackle doesn't put you in position to make the playoffs. They're not going to make the playoffs anyway. And perhaps obviously, if you're drafting a guy number 7 overall, you're certainly looking at this being a long-term issue, and you want to make sure that whether Jared Goff is the long-term quarterback or you're getting somebody next year, that there's going to be a wall around him of protection, particularly at the 2 tackles and at the center with Frank Ragnow. But the defense is still a bottom feeder unit. The wide receivers are still arguably the worst in the league, and now all of a sudden you've got a little bit better of an offensive line. I'll tell you what, this is if Jared Goff was skittish in the pocket last year, then there's no excuse for that now because of the 2 great tackles that he's supposedly going to have this year. He's going to have time to operate to find those wide receivers that can't get open.
Yeah, look, Nick Baumgartner, I talked to him this week from The Athletic, and he was, referencing a tape that he watched of Sewell, this cut up where he was running around, just burying guys into the ground, and it was just like, man, he looked as solid as possible. But there was, let the commissioner, the Panthers pick is in here at 8, and I'll tell you about this.
Fields.
In the 2021 NFL Draft.
Could be.
The Carolina Panthers select J.C. Horn.
There you go.
J.C. Horn, South Carolina. There you go. So
well, and that just goes to show you to not believe all the rumors you hear on NFL Draft Day, because there's a new ESPN reporter, I'd never seen her before, who said multiple times during their Draft Day coverage that the floor for Justin Fields was number 8 with the Carolina Panthers. That didn't seem to make sense to me because they just traded for Sam Darnold. I get that they just flipped Teddy Bridgewater out to the Denver Broncos, but why would you go give up assets to acquire Sam Darnold and then draft a quarterback as high as number 8? Now they
didn't give up a whole lot for Darnold. If you look at the draft package, they haven't signed him to an extension yet. So I mean, and plus they have a new owner there, and the new owner is being compared to like a Mark Cuban, like he's just this forward thinker, mover and shaker kind of thing. So there was something there. It was kind of a live wire here with the Panthers. I want to get back. I was telling you that Baumgartner was, referenced this video of Sewell that just looked like an animal, just manhandling guys, planting them into the ground like tulips, bulldozing them over and all these things, bunch of pancake blocks that he watched. But one of his colleagues at The Athletic wrote a story this week about Penei Sewell, and he talked, this guy's name's Bob McGinn, and he talked to a bunch of anonymous scouts. And he referenced these unnamed scouts, and they all talked about Sewell. All right? And I just want you to listen to some of these are unnamed scouts, a guy from The Athletic. This was about Penei Sewell, who the Lions just picked at 7 in the draft. Here's what one scout told McGinn. I put the tape on expecting to see Jonathan Ogden or Joe Thomas or Walter Jones or Orlando Pace, and I didn't see it, an unnamed scout said. But he's going high because there's nobody else. Here's another unnamed scout.
Wow.
He's a good, not great player. The guy's young. He didn't play this year. Said another unnamed scout to The Athletic about Penei Sewell. A bit overrated. He's naturally thick, big frame tackle. His workout was actually better than he played. I didn't think he was super explosive. He covered people up with his size, and he named one pass rusher he actually played against in the Pac-12 who's on the draft board. Here's one, a kicker. He's saying then came the kicker at the bottom of the item on Sewell. Every time I circled back and watch him, I just don't see it. This was an unnamed scout. He's not that gifted with his feet. He doesn't really play that physical or strong. He can get in the way, but he's not a really good finisher, and his balance isn't great. His technique is off. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. Now, these are unnamed scouts, and these are all of this guy that works for The Athletic, had talked with him. Now, he was panned almost universally. I say universally again, but he was panned at least from the 4 or 5 people, and even one of his colleagues. Like I said, I said this to Baumgartner. I said, "Hey, what'd you think about that?" He said, "Look, I watched the tape, and I don't see any of that. I saw him burying guys into the ground, and most people thought that this was one of those things like a plant to see if you could just get him to drop, in the draft. But I don't know. This is not some, first year reporter. He's going with unnamed scouts. Maybe he was looking, for negative things on Penei Sewell, but he found them. Those are at least 3, maybe 4 unnamed scouts that didn't have glowing reports on him.
Yeah, they're basically saying same old Lions, and then the Lions drafted him. And look, there are times when it does seem like scouts are just trying to feed you a line of garbage. Like I remember a couple of years ago, I was sitting at Little Caesars Arena for a Pistons game, and I was sitting next to an unnamed scout, and we were talking about Zion Williamson, and he was saying that he wasn't so sure about Zion because he didn't know what position he could play, and he said he probably would go number 1, but if he was the general manager, he would trade the pick away because he just wasn't sure about Zion Williamson. Now, obviously, he didn't know whether I was the biggest reporter in town or not, and I could have put that story out there, but I don't think I have mentioned that story except maybe one time until just now. But sometimes that's what scouts do. They put out, kind of bogus takes like that. But it is interesting that you said that Baumgartner talked to 4 or 5 different scouts. It wasn't just one scout. It was 4 or 5 different ones who all were saying that he was overrated, didn't play anybody.
No, not Baumgartner. Baumgartner said that he watched some film.
Oh.
And he was awesome. This was a guy that he works that works at the same from The Athletic.
Okay.
McGill, I think his name is.
Well, the reporter talked to various scouts. That's the point I was trying to make, and they were saying that overrated, SOL, bad balance, doesn't play anybody in the Pac-12, and that's a good point. Like I could probably go through Mel Kiper Jr.'s best available defensive ends, but I wonder how long it's going to take until I find a Pac-12 player. Like Kwity Paye's number 1, and let's see, Jalen Phillips, Ronnie Perkins. We got Joe Tyron of Washington is the 4th ranked defensive end ahead of Jason Oweh of Penn State. Then after that, you have to go down to down to 23. Yeah, there's that. According to Mel Kiper Jr., only one Pac-12 defensive end is ranked among the top 25 defensive ends in the draft. So maybe there is something to that.
Bob McGinn, who had all those anonymous scouts, he worked 38 years covering the Green Bay Packers. He retired in 2017. He worked for the Green Bay Press-Gazette and the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. For 38 years, he retired, and now he's back working with The Athletic. He's the one that had all those unnamed sources that were, let's say, trashing, but were down on Penei Sewell. But so like I said, it's a safe pick here for the Lions. And, you get the reasoning here. I still wanted them to trade down. I mean, getting picks and building it up, especially this year, in a year where you don't have the medicals on guys. I mean, Sewell opted out himself, so you don't have tape on him for 2 years. And let the other teams, gamble with it. And, you can take picks and play them into the future here. That's what you're supposed to be doing anyways. But, it's not a day or a night here to yell about the Lions here because, they didn't do anything really. Doesn't seem like it incredibly stupid here. It's a new regime. It's safe and solid. They're not going to be any good. It just, felt like this was a prime spot. Now, it'll be interesting to hear what they have to say about it. Brad Holmes, no, we didn't really get the calls that we were expecting, that kind of thing. There was a report that the Lions were asking too much earlier in the day. Like they were trying to hold it up for a
Well,
King's
better that
ransom.
than making an Al Avila deal.
Well, that's right. Like, if the Patriots are like, yeah, we'll throw you a second rounder in 3 years to just a swap, it's like they're not just doing it just to do it. You got to get fair compensation there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's how you negotiate. If the Lions were saying, hey, we need 3 ones here, and other teams are just hanging up on them, well, that'll be something that wouldn't be all that smart anyway. So, all right, we'll hear from Jelen coming up. If you're out there, we'd like to hear from you on the live chatter on Facebook and what you thought about the pick. The Broncos selection is in. Let's see if they say anything about trading for Aaron Rodgers. Here's the commissioner.
Here comes the commissioner with the announcement.
We'll stay with you through pick 10.
With the ninth pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Pat Surtain, Jr., defensive back, Alabama.
Patrick Surtain the second, or as the commissioner called him, Junior. Isn't that the same thing?
Yeah. Well, I think usually you are junior until you have a Patrick Surtain the third, and then you become Patrick Surtain the second if you would like to be. But I'm not an expert on juniors and seniors. A couple of things about this pick. First of all, we've got back-to-back defensive players and back-to-back cornerbacks taken. Top 7 players were offensive linemen, offensive players, and then you go defense. So I think the best defensive player is still on the board. I believe the Cowboys are picking 10th. Is that right?
That's right. I thought a lot of people had the Cowboys taking Surtain. So.
Yeah, a lot of them did. I know that Micah Parsons has wanted to become a Dallas Cowboy, so perhaps his dream is going to come true. Sean Lee, a longtime linebacker of the Cowboys, who was also a Penn State Nittany Lion, just retired a couple of days ago, so he could be taking his place. But I think the one thing that I'm really wondering about right now, when you see that a team that had a little bit of quarterback issues in the Panthers passing on a QB and taking a corner, and the same thing with the Denver Broncos, although they just acquired Teddy Bridgewater, is where is Mac Jones going to fall, and where is Justin Fields going to fall? Because at number 10, the Cowboys, who just signed Dak Prescott to that monster deal, are not going to take him. They could trade it away, but they're not going to take him. The Giants appear to still... Okay.
Right into the Patriots' laps. That's where they're going to fall.
Well, but there's 2 guys. I mean, you can go down the list. The next 2 teams are also from the NFC East. The Giants, they still want to stick with Daniel Jones. Are the Eagles going to sit there at number 12 and say, well, we didn't think that one of those 2 quarterbacks would still be there, so we're going to take one? Or are they going to pass and try to get Jalen Hurts some help? 13, Herbert, you're definitely not taking a quarterback there. I don't think the Vikings at 14. And then you have 15 with the Patriots. So that would be a possibility for one to go off the board if there aren't any trades. 16, the Cardinals with Kyler Murray, they're not going to take anyone. Could the Raiders at 17 with Carr be enticed? I don't know. Then 18 is the Dolphins. They're not taking one. Then after that, at 19, with one of those 2 quarterbacks still on the board, Washington FT, followed by the Bears at 20. We could see one of those 2 quarterbacks
trade down. I think we're all in agreement there. I guess they were asking for the King's ransom, but I'm happy with Penei Sewell. Like I can't complain about it. I'm kind of in shock about a nice, solid first-round pick. It feels weird.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. And in years past, you always felt like, teams were getting over on the Lions, or the Lions screwed it up, but, it does feel like, they sat there and even though they're still I would have preferred them trading down, sticking there and going. You can't have too many especially if you need a tackle. And you got a great one there. You can't go wrong. Let's see what some of the feedback
Well,
is
before we get to the feedback, let me just say that with regards to trading down, I know that we all thought that would be the right decision to trade down. But, I mean, we have to look and see that through 9 picks, nobody's traded down, meaning nobody has traded up. So maybe there just wasn't a strong market for teams to trade up, or maybe whatever player a team was willing to trade up to get was just always off the board. But 9 picks in, no trades. We've had some pre-draft trades, but no draft day trades so far.
Good point.
I'm looking at a Bleacher Report article right after we drafted Sewell, and according to Jeremy Fowler and Dan Garziano of ESPN, Detroit tried to get down to number 4, where they were possibly trying to land Jamar Chase. So I'm not sure how much validity there is to that.
Yeah, that story came out yesterday that they were trying to get up to number 4 to get Chase, but Falcons won the Pitts. There's a lot of hype about Pitts. So
one last thing regarding the Bears, they at plus 275, it says they're going to take a wide receiver at pick 20. I don't see that happening. I really feel like they have to go to a quarterback, but I mean, who knows?
But I think it depends on who's available.
We have a trade to announce here. The Philadelphia Eagles have moved up, and they have got the Cowboys pick. They're showing
an intra-division trade.
They're showing a live a picture of a video of the Cowboys draft room, and nobody's in there. Some lady like off to the side. So they all took off here. It still says when you look at the board that the Eagles have retained their pick at 12 as well, and they have the Cowboys pick. So be interested to see what the Eagles are giving up here in the NFC East to go up. The Eagles need a corner and they need a wide receiver, and they're showing Davonte Smith. That would seem likely that would be the selection. All right, Keith has said Sewell is a solid, safe pick. KC traded up to take Mahomes, and everyone scratched their head. I'm scratching mine about Fields. Denver might take him, he says. Run game just got better. That's from Paul W. Yeah.
But they still need some running backs to produce.
Parsons. Keith says you Lion fans will regret them passing on Fields. Goff is average, and Fields' upside is Russell Wilson.
Well, when it comes to regretting passing on Fields, let's not forget that Chris Sims had Fields dropping all the way to number 32. So who knows? Maybe all this talk about let's be down on Justin Fields is real, and he's still sitting there at 41, and then they could draft him in the second round.
Well, if he's there at 41, now, like I said, Chris Sims should be up for a GM job if that happens.
4 months ago, nobody thought he was going to be there at number 3. Now he's there at number 10.
Yeah, fine point, Chapman. I don't think the Eagles are taking a quarterback.
I don't. I wouldn't be surprised if they take Micah Parsons here. I did see some mock drafts having Parsons go to the Eagles at number 12. So maybe they think that the Giants. Oh, and now it just switched on my screen. So the Cowboys and the Eagles did swap picks. So the Cowboys do have the number 12 pick.
Okay.
But they've also they've got one of the worst wide receiver groups in the NFL, tied with the Lions. I wouldn't be surprised if they take Davonte Smith here because they need something at wideout.
Yeah, I agree with you. They're showing a picture of Michael Parsons. He's looking pretty good. He's got a blue suit with a black turtleneck underneath, but he's not looking very happy.
That's a bad look. Blue and black, not a good look.
Like I said, he wanted to go to the Cowboys. Now, he gets to stay in state. I don't know if he grew up an Eagles fan, a Steelers fan, or maybe he grew up a Cowboys fan, but he gets to stay in state where he played high school, where he played college football, if they take him there. But, it's interesting. We'll see what the Eagles pick. Who do you think they should pick, Dennis?
I think they should pick Davonte Smith. The Cowboys scoop up a third rounder next year by moving back 2 slots. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I mean, Davonte Smith, he could be the best wide receiver there.
Yeah.
I know people talking about his weight and everything, but the production was there. A great character guy too, and he's just somebody that you love. Like, you listen to him talk, you know his character, all of that kind of stuff. Leader. Not too bad. And, you got Jalen Hurts as your quarterback. That might not be the best thing for you, but, you got the Alabama connection there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that Smith would be the top choice of them, perhaps Micah Parsons, and then looking at who else is available that they might consider. I don't know if they need offensive line help, but Rashawn Slater's there. I don't see them taking one of the 2 quarterbacks in Mac Jones or Justin Fields. So I would think it's going to be one of the 2 guys we just mentioned.
Yeah, I know this. Parsons, before the pandemic, everybody was talking about this guy was going to be one of the top 5 picks for sure. And all he did is just opt out. And now they're talking about the red flags, and now he's falling back to 10 here. So, if it's not going to be Davonte Smith, I think Parsons is the pick. And we do have the commissioner here for our last selection here on the hashtag Fith Chapter. Mock. Now, how many people had a perfect mock. I don't think anybody had a perfect mock.
No, I don't think so.
They brought a little old lady to sit up in the chair, wearing the Deshaun Jackson jersey, it looks like.
Who it is, the Eagles wanting to move up and get tonight. Here comes Rodgers with the 10th pick.
Your boy Greeny announcing it.
The Dallas Cowboys have traded the 10th pick to the Philadelphia Eagles. With the 10th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Davonte Smith.
Yep.
Wide receiver, Alabama.
Yep, no surprise.
Great pick.
They needed wideouts. They needed some help. They needed pass catches for Jalen Hurts. They got him. It's interesting. In the top 10, you got 3 quarterbacks that are reuniting with their college wide receivers.
Davonte Smith does look little in his suit. He's got his little bow tie and a double-breasted. His waist. He's got to have a 25-inch waist. But hey, I love him. So,
Yeah,
and I like the pick for the Eagles there. So I'm not talking. I'm just saying he looks small. He is small.
Well, yeah, he is. He's what, 165 pounds?
He's so small he had to tie his suit on. His little tie around there. He's so
yeah,
tiny.
he does. He actually does have that. Like that. Hey, you know what? Deshaun Jackson wasn't so big. He ended up being a pretty good wideout for himself. So.
I think he was bigger, though.
Deshaun Jackson bigger than Davonte Smith?
Yeah, I think he might have had him by 10 to 15 pounds.
All right. Hey, we appreciate everybody watching here. Let's get our Jelinek, you got a last thought or two?
Hey, I'm happy with the Lions pick. I haven't been happy in the Lions pick in a long time, so I cannot hate on what's happened tonight. I'm just shocked Mac Jones hasn't been selected in the first round. Neither is Justin Fields. So that's my biggest takeaway for tonight, that there were 5 quarterbacks taken right away.
Yeah, I'm here for the green room shots of Mac Jones looking at his multiple phones here for the rest of the night. I'm here for that. Look, I thought that the Lions should have taken Justin Fields. I think they will regret that, but I can't bag at them too much because you can certainly make an argument for playing a quarterback down the line even 2 years from now, because that's how long it's going to be for the Lions are in position. And when you need a tackle and you got a tackle and there's one up there and you've got 2 other first-round picks up there, you clearly know the direction that they're going. Safe, solid. I give them a B. For this regime right here, they'll be able to bite all the kneecaps they want with a grinding offensive line. Chapman?
Yeah, I would give the pick a B minus. He's a good player, is a good value, unless that scouting report that you brought up turns out to be true, and that he's got terrible balance and he didn't play against any competition and he was never all that dominant. Although all the other films suggest otherwise, it's just offensive tackle. Especially right tackle, you can get a right tackle that can start for you in the second round. You can get one in the third round. You can get somebody off the free agent heap, something like that. And it's not like you got a bad left tackle that you eventually want to replace in a year or so when he hits free agency. You just signed Decker to an extension, if I'm not mistaken. So he would not have been the guy that I would have chosen had I been the same old Lions. Real quickly before we end the show. Let's turn the page to the 5th chapter in the major wager. Brian, I want you to give us a couple of bets a couple of NFL draft bets to look forward to for people that are watching for the end of the draft. And while you take a look at that, I'll just remind folks that on Thursday I picked Zach Eflin over 5.5 strikeouts. Tonight I'm picking the Bucks minus 13.5 against the Houston Rockets. Dennis, did you have a late major wager pick that you wanted to put in there?
I had Davonte Smith under 11 in the draft, so that came in. But unfortunately, I had Fields under 7.5, and I had an exacta, which that didn't turn out. But I hit on the Davonte Smith at least one. I also did want to thank the Pro Sports Zone and the Laurel Manor.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the Laurel Park. In communication with them today for our grand prize for the 5th chapter mock draft. We'll tell you who wins that one. I got Super Mario Manningham in early June showing up there, so we'll get that prize out to you. And thanks to the Pro Sport Zone and the Laurel Park Mall in Livonia.
So the first 2 things I'm looking at to look for in the first round would be Elijah Vera Tucker under pick 24. It says under at minus 125. And then Trayvon Moring Woodard. There's no way I'm pronouncing that name right. Is number one safety being drafted or number one safety being picked today at minus 370. What do you guys think?
I think he's going to the Ravens. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, the TCU safety is he's the top safety in the draft. I see Mel Kiper has him as the 8th best available player. So I would think that if Kiper knows what he's talking about, then that'd be pretty safe money to put on Trayvon Morig or whatever his name is. So, yeah.
Guys, the Bears moved up to 11. Just letting you know.
That's for a quarterback. Let's
That's
stay on
totally
for this
for
pick.
A quarterback. We gotta stay on.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be for Justin Fields.
And so then he can burn the Lions for the next 10, 15 years, you mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think this is Fields.
I'm hoping they take Parsons. Answer their defense. It doesn't seem like that.
Yeah. Well, think about a defense of Micah Parsons, Roquan Smith, and Khalil Mack terrorizing Jared Goff.
Sounds good. Maybe they'll take Mac Jones.
Hey,
no, they're taking Fields. They're taking Fields.
I mean,
there you go.
I
think the party, the Lions party, like, hey, we got to beat up the big offensive line. We didn't want any quarterback. The Bears took the guy that's gonna end up torturing you for the next 15 years.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Hopefully he is a bust now, right?
According to Ian Rappaport, the Bears sent a package including a future one to move up with the trade with the Giants. So it's got to be for a quarterback without a doubt.
Yeah. I don't think they're giving up another first round pick to get a linebacker.
No, and they're taking Justin Fields. I mean, that's the pick here.
Well, Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are in the same situation Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia were a year ago. It's do or die for them. So it's got to be a QB.
I think we're pretty much guaranteed it's going to be one of those two. Here's the moment.
Mac Jones, just heard Mel Kiper saying it's either going to be Mac Jones or it's going to be Justin Fields. I think they're going to announce the trade here.
And they just acquired Andy Dalton.
Here's Rodgers.
Red Rifle's like, WTF?
Yeah.
Through this year's draft-a-thon, the NFL is supporting our nation's path to recovery from COVID-19.
A little pandemic announcement before we get to the selection.
Yeah, I think Justin Fields, accurate downfield passer, pairing him up with Allen Robinson, being a mobile quarterback. I think this is just what the Bears need if this is what they take.
Yeah, you know what? You just picture Fields in a Bears uniform, and it looks right, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And you know what? They've got the Red Rifle to play a couple games, but man, I wouldn't be surprised if Field starts from game one.
Same here.
Behind me has been doing just that, leading the Greater Auburn Gresham Development Corporation in Chicago. His dream of creating a federally...
Still talking a little pandemic PA for you. That's good. I know Big Gretch talked today about it. She was saying that if they get the vaccines up, then things will be looking good here. Yeah, the coast could be clear for all of us.
With the Bear selection.
Okay, here's the guy, the old special Bear selection here.
Well, how exciting is this?
Just make the pick.
In the 2021
Fields.
NFL Draft, my Chicago Bears select Justin Fields, quarterback, Ohio State.
Hey, it was fun being a Lion fan for a second.
Yep.
Lions fans were all like, we're doing this. We got
S-O-L. S-O-L. S-O-L.
Well, there you go. You want the big tackle, or you didn't want the Ohio State quarterback anyways,
Hey, at least
right?
Aaron Rodgers is out of the division, right? Right?
Yeah, once Rodgers goes to the Broncos, good point, chap. All right, that's going to do it. Jelinek, great job. Thanks for your help, man.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you. It was fun.
Yeah, it was. We'll see you on Tuesday. We'll see how the Lions did with the rest of their draft picks, including 2 in the third round. And for Brian Chapman, I'm Dennis Fith, and we will talk with you on Tuesday here on the Fifth Chapter. Good night.
He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fith chapter. Huh. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spit in the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have